So this whole time on Reb David's request, we've been speaking about minhagim, and not so much minhagim, people have minhagim, but I'm talking about minhagim that have a tokef of a din or even broke a din, stronger than dinim. And we went from learning about Das Yehudis, which has a din of a minhag, all inyanim of tznius, which has a inyanim of minhagim, as I explained, that Judge Eddie halachas by this 10-second introduction, because we spoke about it for hours and hours, what that actually means, and what the tokef is. And then we went to Hilchas Nida, which is the din of Reb Zera, B'lois Yisrael Ichmir al Atzman, and what's the tokef of that? And that's what we've been talking about for the last number of weeks, with the Machlokes, the Galia Masechta, and Rav Moshe, and Rav Shlomo Zalman, and the Rav Gusman. Zichronim Livracha. So what I'd like to do now is maybe an introduction to future things, is I want to try to explain a new theory. And the theory is that minhagim are independent of halacha, how they're created. What I mean by that is that this is something that I've said to begin with, and when we talk, it started with Shabbos HaGadol, right? when we talk about minhagim, we're talking about what Yiddishkeit is today. It doesn't make any difference if somebody's really doesn't make any difference if somebody's going to pull out something. Did Moshe Rabbeinu wear a yarmulke? Did he not wear a yarmulke? Answer: nobody cares. Our minhag is to wear a yarmulke. Did the women in Europe cover their hair? Did they not? They covered their hair. Nobody cares. Today, for women, cover their hair. What I mean to say by that is that there's a certain, forgive the term, evolution of halacha, both l'chula and l'chumra, where we are what we are today, and that is an expression of Yiddishkeit according to the Ribono Shel Olam. And that's why when we say, this term that, all old-timers know, like a minhag is tzibrecht adin, or a minhag is starker v'adin, and all of that, what that means is if that's our minhag, you can't be smarter than the minhag and try to find archaeological proof that that's not the right thing, al pi halacha. I know this is I keep on repeating it because it's a very, a jarring idea, but it's a completely true one. Lani is daiti, it's completely true. So I want to show a couple of simple halachas that everybody know, and try to build a yesod from it. The Gemara, let's start with Hilchos Mezuzah. Today I want to learn Hilchos Mezuzah for a few minutes, and Hilchos Tefillin for a few minutes. Two demonstrations of what we're talking about. In Hilchos Mezuzah, in the Gemara Menachos, Lamed Gimel Lamed Beis, the Gemara speaks there about what is the correct way to hang your mezuzah. We know you put it on the right side, that the Gemara established earlier. We know you put it on the right side going in, meaning to the cheder plimi. Always goes to the cheder plimi, a very important halacha. But the question is whether how do you put the mezuzah? Do you put the mezuzah straight, oimed, or do you put it ba'al achsain? So the Gemara doesn't talk about it. Interesting, huh? The Gemara doesn't give us clear instructions. The Gemara says, like, when you put this is what the Gemara says, when you put your mezuzah up, lo yiyeh, it shouldn't be kinagar. What's a nagar? No, nagar is a perfect. A nagar is the pole. Like, anybody here old enough to remember how they used to lock doors in the old days? Like the old buildings, you took a bar and you put it on top of the thing, and that was locked. Not so much like that. When I was a kid, the very old buildings you still closed up that way. So like some kind of a castle or something. So that's called a nagar. Why? I guess because the carpenter makes it. So you can't put the mezuzah up kinagar. So Rashi says, interestingly, that means, really this is Pashut Pshat in the Gemara. The Rashi, that means that in Menachos Lamed Gimel, That means when you put up a mezuzah, you don't put it up like a nagar. You don't put it up flat. So if you have your doorpost over here, right, this is your doorpost, you don't put, here's your doorpost going in, you don't put the mezuzah from here to here. You don't put it this way, right? That would be horizontal. Thank you, that's a good word. You don't put it horizontally because that's kinagar. That's what Rashi says. So how do you put it? Standing up. Put up your mezuzah standing up normally. Frank Tosfos, the most interesting question that you're going to find in Tosfos, he says it can't be that that's the correct way to put up a mezuzah standing up. So harei eno mechubad. It's not mechubad to put a standing up. What's not lo mechubad? To put a mezuzah standing up. What's not mechubad about it? So he says that's how you bury a chamor. This is Tosfos. Kvuras chabar, the Gemara says in Baba Basra, is you take the chabar and you I've never buried a chabar, nor have I been at a funeral of a chabar, or at least not a not a biological chabar. But so you put it up. But agav, there's
you have to bury a chabar?
No, you got to get rid of the chabar, I guess. So they bury it standing up. I don't know what the Indian of burying a chabar standing up. I know, by the way, that the archaeologists in Israel have found, I think in Tveria mostly, a number of Mason being buried standing up. Not Rabbi Akiva or something like that. I don't know if they found the bones of Rabbi Akiva. But I'm talking about like in the regular Beis HaKfaros, the Hatika. In Tveria, they found a number of kfarim which were standing up, maybe to save space, maybe somebody told me once because of the frequent earthquakes that were doing it. Anyways, but you're not allowed, the halacha is, you're not allowed to bury, that's called kvuras chamar. Well, that's how you would bury a chamar standing up. A person, you lay him down, and that's how you bury him. And in the Seichers HaPolim, there's an arichas there in the Rishonim of the correct way to bury somebody laying on their back with their hands in front of them. There's a mahalach in kavura, but says Tosfos, but it's not standing up. Standing up is not mechubad. I leave it to you because Tosfos doesn't explain what's not mechubad about it, except for a comparison for burial, which doesn't seem to have any tibiyut at all to hilchos mezuzah. So he says it can't be that you're not allowed to put up a mezuzah. Kanagar means you put it standing up. That can't be like Rashi. Comes the Eidukul Rabbeinu Tam, and he says the correct way when the Gemara says like Kanagar, his svara tells him that that you put it horizontally. You do put it horizontally, and bezakifa, putting it vertically, you're not yotze. So Rashi holds you should as kiyadua. Rashi holds that you put the mezuzah vertically, and Tosfos holds machlekes Rashi and Tosfos you put the mezuzah horizontally.
What's in regard to him? There's something else.
The things that hold the things that hold the bar is the nagar. That you shouldn't be nagar like those two brackets that hold it, which are vertical. It should rather be. In other words, the question there, linguistically speaking, is what's the nagar? Is the bar that's going across the nagar, or is it those brackets that hold it, which is the nagar? And you're not allowed to put it like as if it's some kind of a bracket on the door. You're putting up the mezuzah. No. Put it hashkava. You put it horizontally. Comes the Shulchan Aruch, and it says, Ketzad koivas Tzricha liyos zekufa, says the Shulchan Aruch, arka la'arach mezuzahs hapesach. Comes the Beis Yosef, Shulchan Aruch, and he paskins that the correct way to put up a mezuzah is straight up, like Rashi. V'yichaven, and you should always have the kavana sheyeh shma, da'inu soif haglila l'tzad chutz. If you're going to write a mezuzah, the word shema has to come out the outside of the mezuzah. So that means when you roll it up, you start from the back, from the last line of the hafta, and you move forward, so that when you open it up, the first thing you see is Shema. And those are the two things the Shulchan Aruch says in one sif. Dahainu soif haglila l'tzad chutz. Says the Rabbah.
What sif is that?
Sif vav. Reish pei tes, sif vav in Yoreh. Says the Rabbah, interestingly, v'chein noagu. First of all, v'chein noagu. That's our minhag. Aval, however, yesh oimrim shepsula, psula b'zekufa. Some say, the Rambam says that if you do it that way, he says, Batzim, I agree with Rashi completely. I'm paskening like Rashi. And if you look at this is the Shulchan Aruch. If you look inside the Beis Yosef when he's commenting on the tour, there he says that's how his father did it, so his grandfather did it. Everybody, Rabbi Rottenberg did it that way. They all made their mezuzah straight, like we see by the Sfardim. They put their mezuzah straight. Why? Because the Shulchan Aruch says to put it straight. A very simple reason to put it straight. Says the Rabbah, Chei Nagu, and that's our minhag. However, Aval, Yesh Oimrim Shepsula B'Skufa. We have a Rabbeinu Tam that says that it's possible to put the mezuzah straight. El Tzricha Liyah Shchuva, it has to be horizontal. Orcha L'Roicha Mezuzahs HaPesach. That's how you say horizontal in Hebrew. Orcha, its length is L'Roicha. So we're looking at it like this. It's Orcha is L'Roicha. Take the mezuzah, and its length goes between the two sides of the width. Babadaktikim. If you're a badaktik, Yotzin Yudei Shleihem, you want to be both Yotzei both Shitas here, Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam. Ubenichel Oisai B'Shipua Ubalachsai. And you put it on a slant. As like that. You put it on a slant. Says the Rabbi, yeah, it's V'chein Roi Linhag. And that's a good minhag. V'chein Noyagim B'mdinas Elu. So it's interesting. V'chein Noagu. The minhag is to put it straight. But b'mdinas elu by us in Poland, so we make it crooked. V'yichavein, and you should have kavana, she'ei roish ha-mezuzah, dahainu shma l'tzad pnim, v'shita achreinu l'tzad chutz. Okay, that's a separate halacha, let's not get mixed up.
Does anyone speak about when you take it out, if it's vertically, perhaps you could read it, whereas if it's like this?
Yeah, you got to turn it around. I think by the way, no, I don't know about that, but in the Taz he brings that if he'll be Zoche, not the Taz, he brings from someone, I don't look where it is, he says, if I'll be Zoche to build a shul with an Ard Kodesh, I'm going to be trying to be Zoche to build the Ard Kodesh big enough that we can put the Sifrei Torah in properly horizontally. Sifrei Torah. What's the difference? If it's not mechubed for a mezuzah, it's not mechubed for a Sefer Torah either. What are we putting the Sefer Torah in there? Kekuras chabar. So.
It's the same achleik, the Sefer Torah, the Talmud hold horizontal and Rashi hold vertical.
And he says that if we being that the Shulchan Aruch says B'atzim that you should be straight, so here's my kasha. So why don't we have a minhag? This is before should the achreinim, this idea. Why do we? Oh, here it is right here. The Taz. It's right. I thought the Taz was somewhere else. It's right here. Tzricha liyah sekufa, says the Taz. This comes from the Gemara Menachos Lamed Gimel. Also can be nagor psula. Zokt Rashi shetachva kebariach shenichlas bechor. Tzricha liyah sekufa has to be Rabbeinu Tam. Who are Yeshayber de Besabuch? The Rabbi Tam says the Taz is the Yeshayber we just read in the Ramah, and he holds lahepich the Beskifa puzzle. These are strong words. Skifa is puzzle. Behidu kinagar. That's what it means. Kosav Mordechai. Mordechai says, Kishaevna Arayin. When I'm going to build an Aron Kodesh, right? Hello, we're here. Kishaevna Arayin. Im eske, if I should be zeicha, archiveu lefi habadas Sefer Torah. I'm going to make it the width of a Sefer Torah. Miyushav ke Sefer Torah shayabunach ba'aray. Zuhi Seder Kriyasa. Now I'm going to do it in a way that it's laying flat, and exactly your point. This reminded me of it, that when you take it out, there it is. It's not like up, standing. Now it's a davar pasha by us. If our Sefer Torah goes on the side, we make a tunnus or something. We get very, very excited. The Mordechai says that's the way you're supposed to do it.
In the Aron, it's clear that it was Shosha.
Harder for sure don't do it, but I'm saying even Ashkenazim and even in Poland, what?
In the Aron, in Beis Hamikdash, it was Shochet, right?
Shochet. That's exactly what he says. Should be just like a Sefer Torah. In other words, in the art, there was a few things. There was the luchos, the shivrei luchos, and a Sefer Torah. There was a Sefer Torah in the art of the Beis Hamikdash, so that Sefer Torah.
Then why this one's so big?
That's right.
So that's a kasha on Taisus.
Was built by the Ashkenazi. What?
That's a kasha on Taisus, no?
He's the one who says, he says horizontal.
He says horizontal. Rashi.
It's a kasha on Rashi, okay.
Rashi speaks v'dayik l'losh of the Gemara, kilagar. Now, here we have a situation like this. Rashi says, let's just get straight. Everybody knows this anyway. They say this over at every Sheva Brachos. Rashi says that the mezuzah goes straight. Tosfos says the mezuzah goes laying flat. So what do? We put it al aqsa. That's our b'cheid noyagid, and that's our minhag. Rashi says, let me just get this clear, that if you put it flat, you're not yotzei, puzzle. You didn't make a mezuzah. Tosfos says, I'm reading the lashon of the Shulchan Aruch. Tosfos holds that if you make it zekufa, if you make it vertical, puzzle, you're not yotzei. What does Rashi and Tosfos both hold about putting it crooked? Like if Rashi would come in, he would say, "What are you doing?" And if Tosfos would come in, he said, "What are you doing?" Like in the shtayer. It's not. But nevertheless, the minute came out like Rashi, but like Tosfos. It's a very interesting thing. It came out like Rashi, but like Tosfos. So there was some kind of a third thing, which became the Minhag Yisrael, which is the shtayer, literally. Am I right? So you hear, this is a Pashat Halacha that everybody knows. But I'm saying, you see here something very interesting where the Minhag Yisrael, at least in our circles, he writes here, the Shach asks the question, why does he say V'chein Nagu, and then he says V'chein Noagid B'mdinas Elu? So he says V'chein Nagu Koloimar Kein Nagu B'shar B'dinai, so B'malchusay Shal B'chaber, B'malchusay Shal B'chaber Kedisa Beis Yosef, V'yeshoy V'chein Nagu B'mdinas Elu. So there's a difference between Poland and where the Ramah was, and all the other countries, whether we do like the Ramah or whether we do with like Rashi or we don't do like Rashi. Let me, before I go further, just explain this, because probably you're thinking, everybody would agree. Crooked. In other words, like Tosfos, like you'd have to say a svara like this. The Tosfos is, okay, it's okay crooked, just don't do what Rashi says. Zekufa is possible. Or Rashi is saying, it's okay crooked, just don't do what Tosfos says, but hashkava horizontally. You could say like that. I thought about this a lot for many months, and I don't think that that's some shot. But let me just show you something else. Another famous machlokes in Hilchos Tefillah. Which is, everybody knows, so just learn it inside for a change. Siman Lamed Daled, how do you put the parshias in your tefillin? Seder Hanachasa Babatim. That's what it's called. Rashi, according to Rashi, Kadesh Mismol Habediach Beveis Hachitzoid, V'acharav Kiviyacha B'bayis Sheni, Ushma B'bayis Shlishi, V'hayim Shemayim B'bayis Revi. In other words, in the Shel Rosh you have 4 different batim. In the Shel Yad you have one long parsha rolled up, which has all of this in there. So in the Shel Rosh, how do you put the order? We know everybody agrees that there's 4 parshias in the tefillah. There's no question about it. Kadesh, Kiviyacha, Shvad, V'hayim Shemaya. Everybody agrees that that's in there. The question is, how is it in there? So there's different questions in this that the Rishonim talk about. Do you put the all the shemesh should be on the inside, like they're protected, or do you go in order of the Torah? That's pretty much the Shiloh. So Rashi says one way, and Rabbi Yaakov says the other way. That's what Rashi is what we just said. Kiviyach. Rashi is, most people aren't okay with this because they just get their tefillin, but this is, and most of us, or all of us, are wearing Rashi tefillin. So Kadesh Mismol, Acharav Kiviyacha, B'bayis Sheni, Ushma B'bayis Shlishi, V'hayim Shemayim B'bayis Haravi. That's the way to Ula Rabbeinu Tam, B'bayis Shlishi, V'hayim Shemayim B'bayis Haravi, Shehu Achitzoid, Shma. So the Shma comes out on the outside. V'chein Minhag Oilam. Minhag Oilam Karashi V'Arambam. The Minhag Oilam is like Rashi. So we put on Rashi tefillin. Says the Shulchan Aruch Sif Beis. However, Yorei Shamayim, if you're Yorei Shamayim, Yetzei Yedei Shleihem, of our crooked here. Yetzei Yedei Shleihem, well, what should you do? V'yaseh shtei zugos tefillin. You should get yourself 2 pairs of tefillin. V'yaliach shneim, and you should put both of them on. V'yichaved b'hano. What does it mean you should put both of them on at the same time? That's what he means. It means you should put both of them on at the same time. 1, 2. V'yichaved. You seen people do that, no? Yeah. But like
really
we
tiny ones.
Okay.
The same.
But we stare at them, would we?
Most people they hold their yarmulke over the second one to cover it, and they cover their shell. They cover everything.
All kinds of things.
Yeah, to not make it obvious. These
I saw somebody putting like this. Because there's a machlokes whether when we say there's room for 2 tefillin shel rosh on the rosh, the biggest big enough is another sheva brachos too. Like okay, there's enough room on the head for 2 shel rosh. It's very nice trick. But so normally it means like this and it means like this. But I saw when I learned in Avat Shalom, there were people. I think it was a Kaf Chaim's grandson, Rabbi Yaacov Sofer, who became a big gadol since then. So I think he put on like this. Like he held like the Rishonim that held it, that's what it means. But in any case, a Yiras Shamayim should put on both at once. There was never a Havamina of putting them on separately. Or if you're a Yiras Shamayim, the way to do it is you put both on at once. This is the part which is interesting. And you should have kavanah when you're putting on these 2 tefillin. The one that's correct. We're not doing like the one that's correct, but that one I'm being yosi yedei chayvasei v'hashar. The rest, the other pair of tefillin that I'm putting on, meaning the other 4 parshas, heim kiritzuos ba'alma, just extra leather. Ki yesh makom b'rosh laniach shtei tefillin. And here's the other thing which maybe you didn't see: v'chein b'zraya. The same thing here. You have the same shaila on your shell yad. So now you have to say another chiddush, the yesh makom biyad l'bizraya l'shtei tefillin shel yad. So I guess that's another pashut because the zraya is a big thing. The head is not so big. You have to say a chiddush. But the zraya goes from here all the way till here. That's the zraya. This is the zraya. This is not the zraya, by the way. I always say this, when it says you should be nofel tachlun al hazraya, that means like this, not like this. People have all kinds of these moves when they say tachlun. They do all kinds of things. They make it up that they feel like this is a place for their creativity to say tachlun. We could do things look like I'm worrying. They could do things. No, that's not the way the Mishnah Berurah says you say tachlun is al hazraya. That's what the Mishnah Berurah says, which comes already from the Gemara. Nafal al zraya. That means it's a little bit difficult for as from a chiropractic point of view. It's a little bit difficult, but that's where you put your head. There's a reason I'll pick Kabbalah for it if you look at the Berurah.
Zra Natuya, Hashem, what does that signify?
Muscle. Your main muscle is here, right? Zra Natuya. Those V'chein b'zraya. V'im eido yodei. Now the Shulchan Aruch gives us a little bit of an out. V'im eido yodei l'chavel hamakom l'aniach shneim yachad. Let's not allowed to do that. This is complicated. That's what you're supposed to do. As the Shulchan Aruch says we're supposed to do. We're supposed to put on Rashi. We're supposed to put on Rabbeinu Tam. We're supposed to do it at the same time. Yaniach kedivrei echad. If you don't know how to do it, you're too nervous that you don't know exactly where to put the tefillin. Okay, so now you have another mahalach. Yaniach kedivrei echad, you should put on like one shel yad v'shel rosh, v'yisalkam, and you should take them off. V'yaliach acher b'smach bracha rishona, quickly without a bracha, you should put on the tefillin of Rabbeinu Tam. So Shulchan Aruch says, and if you can't put them on once, so which one should you put on first? You should put on the Rashi, says the Shulchan Aruch, v'yavarech aleihem. Make the bracha on your Rashi always. V'yu alav b'shas kriya shema u'tfila. V'achar ha'tfila yaniach shel Rabbeinu Tam. B'lei bracha v'yikra b'hem shema v'haya im shabaya. Did you get that? You say kriya shema u'tfila. V'achar ha'tfila yaniach shel Rabbeinu Tam. B'lei bracha v'yikra b'hem shema v'haya im shabaya. You should say shema v'haya im shabaya. That's the end of the Shulchan Aruch. No Rama. No Rama. So somebody's got to think about this, right? Yeah, and the Tanai is a disturbing Tanai. if this is the right one, so I'm being yotze with this one. The other one is just ritzuas ba'alma. Like, wow. And if this is, now, I ask my question again. Rashi comes into the room and he sees you're wearing 2 pairs of tefillin. What are you wearing 2 pairs of tefillin? I told you how to make tefillin. Just put on your tefillin. Rabbi Yaacov, this is all wrong, to put on 2 and make it like it. And according to Rabbi Yaacov, what are you doing? Just put on tefillin normally. So what's the answer in Shulchan Aruch? We put on 2 pairs of tefillin. The Shiur says, by the way, there's famously that the Rav Chaim of Volozhin asked the Gra, like if he should put on 2 pairs of tefillin, like the Shulchan Aruch says. So of course, he was asking, should I do what the Shulchan Aruch says? So the Gra says, you should put on 18 pairs of tefillin. So the Gra, from that story, you know that the Gra found 18 different shitas as to how to put on tefillin. Elamai halacha karashi, and he argued with the Shulchan Aruch. Gra argued with the Shulchan Aruch, which is why in the let's say Chassidish Welt, where the Gra is not kovei halacha, so they put on Rashi or Rabbeinu Tam. I never saw in the Chassidish world that they put on 2 at one time. Never saw, even though they're going with the Shulchan Aruch. But the Svardim that take the Beis Yosef more seriously, I guess. So they say do what the Shulchan Aruch says. Mishnah Berurah says. Oh, I'm sorry. The Mishnah Berurah is going on the Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch and Sif Gimel. Lo yasakein elamisha muchsak u'mufursim b'chasidus. That's our out. You don't put on these tefillin, 2 pairs of tefillin. This whole thing that I told you, the Shulchan Aruch himself says, Lo yasakein elamisha machzik u'mufursim b'chasidus. And now the Shulchan Aruch just flipped the whole thing on its back and says, don't do anything unless you're a big tzaddik. Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch, Rabbi Yaacov Haber. Lo yasik Sif Gimel. Or Sif Aleph is you should put on 2 pairs at once. Sif Beis is you should, if you can't do that, put it one after the other. Sif Gimel, La Yasaken Elamisha Muchsagum Forsim Chasidus, says a Mishnah Berurah, Afilim Yirtzalahanicham Rak Acher. Let's say you want to just put them on after davening. There's no, what do I have to be Chasidus? Nevertheless, the reason is because you're looking like a Balgaiva. So afilu yirtzel alicha rakacher atfila because of aber hetiv beish echad shayloig lalich tefila derabbeinu tab acher atfila b'fnei hakahol ibech Shiur. The ber hetiv discusses a person that insisted on putting on rabbeinu tab tefillin after the davening. If it's bech Shiur and pasak b'tshubas marash alevi the bech Shiur sir shivatel minhag, even though it's his minhag to put on rabbeinu tab, he has to stop. He must stop saying putting on Rabbeinu Tam. That's what the Ber Hetiv says. Chen kasav v'shua shuvas Yaakov sibed b'abdalad shafilu b'ksas oisid yesh by b'shub yura. Even if a few people do it, it's yura. Certainly, if there's a gadol around, a chashuv, a person around who's not putting on Rashi or Rabbeinu Tam, you're not supposed to outdo outmachmir the Rav or the gadol or whoever's around. Tabu Chacham. Unless your book's b'chasidus, we just read the verse. Shekim sha'olam noigid. Kerashi, says the Mishnah Berurah, since the bats of the minhag is like Rashi, nira kiyura b'shachoishish lahachri alatzmei b'zeh. He made a booksak shemachri alatzmei gam kein b'shar dvarb. Unless you're consistent with your chumras all over the place, you're machmer and everything. He's machmer and everything, right?
Do Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam hold that the opposite way is totally just you're not yotzei the mitzvah, or is there an idea that Moshe Rabbeinu said that the following things are required for tefillin to be to be yotzei the mitzvah of tefillin, and they debate the minhagim of how to put the stuff in the tefillin.
It's according to according to Rashi, if you do like Rabbeinu Tam, you're not yotzei. Now,
Moshe Rabbeinu did one or the other, which is to go back to your original thing, not to say, but like, do you wear yarmulke, not wear yarmulke? I mean, like, in my son, there was a certain way tefillin was made.
right.
Now that at the time of Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam, what was it? Sorry, that Rashi's father had tefillin and his grandfather had tefillin.
Ki yodua kushya.
And mezuzahs.
So, Yigal Yadin, there's a new Maramakum. Yigal Yadin, who was a great archaeologist here in Israel, discovered Chumra and Masada. So he wrote a pamphlet called Tefillin de Rabbeinu Tam. I don't think he put on any tefillin. But he wrote, I shouldn't say that. Maybe he did put on tefillin. But he wasn't known as a religious guy. But he wrote a pamphlet called Tefillin de Rabbeinu Tam because in Quabrad he found 4 pairs of tefillin and they were all Rabbeinu Tam tefillin. Now, Quabrad was 1,300 years before Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam were ever born. Masada, like in that area, which during the Roman rule, we're talking about during the Churban of the Bayesheni, so many Jews, we're not even sure what kind of Jews they were, but many Jews ran out to Quabrad and Masada, the surrounding caves and mountains in the Dead Sea area, and they were from Jews. They were clearly from Jews, Kanoim. They were called the Kanoim. Chazal called them the Kanoim, and they all seemingly wore Rabbeinu Tam tefillin. So l'chora, he wanted to claim, okay, we solved the issue, we solved the problem. I just showed you, I'm an archaeologist. I just showed you that long before is Rabbeinu Tam. I actually remember when this pamphlet came out. So I showed it to Rav Scheinberg at the time, who said, if the Gra says there are 18 types of tefillin, I'm going to find them. He put on one after the other, all kinds of shitas of tefillin. But they had a whole shelf of tefillin, different types of shitas of tefillin. So it showed him that they found Rabbeinu Tam tefillin. And he says, really, back then, or they already put on Rabbeinu Tam also? It was like his immediate reaction. And the answer is, his reaction was correct, because when the critiques came out about this Yigal Yadin teaching us Hilchos Tefillin, which is historical. I mean, there's really it's fact. I mean, it's a fact. They found Rabbeinu Tam tefillin. It's amazing that they were able to find something that a couple thousand years old that was intact enough to be able to say. But there's pictures of it. Google it. There's pictures of it. It's a real thing. But apparently, it came out that it's a machlokes keduma. This is not way before Rashi or Rabbeinu Tam was a machlokes and Tanoim already of how the tefillin were. And what happened was that when we went out, Golos Bavel got lost. The Beser got lost. What happens? We saw this in America when we were kids. Somebody remembers from before Europe. This is what they used to do. We said Brich Shemay. We didn't say Brich Shemay. There was no clear luach. There was no clear. It was so different. Minhagim came different ways. But the machlokes is a machlokes keduma, Rashi or Rabbeinu Tam, which is the answer to the question. The answer to the question is that why did they look at their father's tefillin? It could be their father wore both pairs of tefillin. So in other words, this kufa is the minhag. Now it's very interesting that here the Shulchan Aruch says put on 2 pairs of tefillin. I just want to make this point. Why don't we put up 2 mezuzahs?
How would that apply to mezuzah?
Why don't we put up 2 mezuzahs?
How would it?
I'm telling you, I'll put up 2 mezuzahs.
All right.
What's the problem? Rabbi Scheinberg wore a lot of tzitzis and put on 2 pairs of tefillin.
Were all his sisters different?
Why? Let me say something. Why do we have to make a t'nai that this one I'm Yotzei with and this one is Rutul Ba'al? Otherwise, you're ever Baltoisiv. So we do the same thing on your door. I'm putting up two kviyas mezuzah, 2 celebrations.
It's the same mezuzah.
Why can't you put up 2
Cloth is the same cloth, where fillings are different.
You can't have it.
No, it's just the way you're putting it. It's the same thing.
I don't hear the start. Tell me what you mean. If I put on 2 mezuzahs and I make a t'nai with one of these I'm Yotzei. If the halach is like Rashi, this is the mezuzah. The other one's doorway. Huh?
You make it tonight.
It's like your kids,
every time.
Okay, but it's a chayvus hadar. I'm just asking a punching question. Give me a punching answer. I'm not punching a guy. The Shulchan Aruch tells us, without the Mechsei Kiyura problem, Shulchan Aruch tells us we should all be wearing 2 pairs of tefillin. Why we don't? I guess because The gra, I think, because of the gra. So we don't wear 2 pairs of tefillin. I know that B'sof Yamav, that Lubavitcher Rebbe had a meeting with Rav Moshe Feinstein somehow, and he convinced him to put on Rabbeinu Tam tefillin. And Rav Moshe Feinstein never wore Rabbeinu Tam tefillin until almost the end of his days, because Lubavitcher Rebbe told him he should put on Rabbeinu Tam tefillin.
Doesn't it say you should put on Rabbeinu Tam tefillin once in your life? To say, maybe that we're wrong, and at least I'll one time be yotze.
There's such a minhag, yeah.
Next time
Did you do that?
stand, you ask them for the way they come.
You've done that?
Do they use those at the? Does somebody use them when they come once at the stand and stuff? Which one do they put on people every day, Rashi?
So there's another shita of the Shimusha Rabbah. That was the name of a sefer. The Shimusha Rabbah, so the Shimusha Rabbah was another way of making tefillin, which we're not going to. So the Grossa, there's 18 ways of making tefillin. So the Arizal had a pair of, Chaim Vital says, the Arizal had a pair of Shimusha Rabbah, tefillin aliba to Shimusha Rabbahs. There's a few differences, mostly in the bottom of the shin. He had tefillin Shimusha Rabbah made, and he wore them for mincha. So, like, if you're really like a holy guy, so then you, I was like the last time I was traveling to America, so I fell asleep in all the zmanim and everything, and it was like I could see just the sun going down. I saw a drop, and I got very, very quickly. I got very nervous because I hadn't put on tefillin. So very, very quickly, I took down my tefillin and I put on my tefillin. They had already made a minyanim and all the stuff that they do on the plane. And this guy comes over to me. He says, "Jetzt likes the tefillin," like he was giving me musar. So I told him Shibusha Rabbah. Oh, I got such it was a terrible lie. Shibusha Rabbah. That's all I said. Shibusha Rabbah. I didn't say. He was like really impressed. He was going to ask me for a bracha or something. Yeah. Anyhow, here again, let's get the quick, clear answer to the question. We got 4 minutes here. Why by tefillin is the recommendation that we put on 2 pairs of tefillin on a tanai, and by mezuzah the recommendation is we put it sideways. So Dov says, well, there is no sideways by tefillin. What are you going to do by sideways? But the sideways by tefillin, which is, you see from tefillin, it's a good eitzah to put 2 pairs of tefillin on, one with a tanai that it's ritzua ba'alma. So I don't see why that's any more or less bal tosef than mezuzahs. What's like this and like this? You could have like this and like this, and that would be the new Chumra of the week here. To put up 2. Don't do this. I'm just saying. I'm asking why not? Why?
It's a big chiluk.
What's a chiluk?
So by mezuzah, you make the shas bracha, and that's one person. But with the hemshech man, there's different people kissing the mezuzah different times. They can't have.
The only one's doing a mitzvah is the choyvus ador. The only one does a
But
mitzvah.
somebody else now
One is
lives
puzzle, the other is kosher.
Somebody else moves in, or you have more than one door, so you can't have kavana for everybody else. B'shas the kviyas and mezuzah.
You can't say Rosh Hashanah's Ba'alma, but maybe the reason is that if I use both ways, then one of them is possible according to the Mishnah. I shouldn't do it.
And by the tefillin.
Possible.
So I think similar to you, I think probably, I'm just saying a svara, probably the emes of this thing is that it could be that by the mezuzah, so if Rashi would look at your mezuzah and see that it's crooked, he would say, maybe you should straighten that out. But it's not, and if Rabbeinu Tam would look at your mezuzah, he would say, maybe you should straighten it out this way. But both of them would live with it. So Mamela, we could put it, if Rashi sees Rabbeinu Tam's tefillin, he says, this is not kosher tefillin, puzzle, Lashon is puzzle. This is puzzle. So that's the point. What do I want to bring out from all this?
What does that have to do with minhag? What does all this have to do with minhag?
Because what our fathers and grandfathers and Moshe Rabbeinu did and Yigal Yadin saw is not the Yiddishkeit that we have. It's an interesting subject, but Yiddishkeit is totally in how the minhag evolved over the centuries and the years. And since our minhag pshuta, is to put on tefillin of Rashi, that's our minhag. We don't even do what the Shulchan Aruch says. We don't say we'll do what the Shulchan Aruch says. Whether the minhag evolved because a shayla psul, or as it works out, the Shulchan Aruch says as a shayla of Yora because it's gaivadik. But for whatever reason, this is my point. What do you mean gaivadik? If I have a chiyuv, maybe it's gaivadik to put on Rashi tefillin also. If you're in a place where nobody puts on tefillin, maybe to put tefillin out of the airport or on a plane is Mexican, or we don't say that. The minhag evolved kacha. The minhag evolved whether, like I say, whether Moshe Rabbeinu wore a yarmulke or wore Rashi tefillin or Rabbeinu Tam tefillin is insignificant to us. The history is not important because minhag is the one thing which evolved. So since the minhag, at least in the Bnei Ashkenaz, the Rambam says tu v'chein nahagos, but to the Bnei Ashkenaz, the minhag has become to do. And this is what I feel. Not like Rashi and not like Rabbeinu Tam. You're not Yotze either one. But there's a new thing. It's a new thing called the Minhag Yisrael of how to put up a mezuzah. It's a whole new idea. Why does it have to be? I got a shtickle Rashi in there. I got a shtickle Rabbeinu Tam in there. I think Libi Amarli that it's a whole new.
And that makes you Yotze with it. And
that creates the Ratzon Hashem. You know, I'll tell you something in Choshen Mishpat. So there's two reasons why I'm not a dayan. One is I don't know enough, and I once so I made a mistake, and I don't want to play with people's money that way. So you have to be a dayan in Choshen Mishpat, you have to learn over and over and over again and be a baki, mamash a baki, nifla with a lot of shibush. But the other reason is because the Shulchan Aruch says that the dayanim should try very hard to make up shara. Okay, you make up shara. You know what happens when you make up shara? You think everybody's happy when they come out of the basement? Everybody's upset. I think you owe me $100,000. Okay, 50,000. That's a pshara. The pshara is that I just lost $50,000. The other guy thinks he doesn't owe me anything. Right? Okay, all you have to do is pay $50,000. I have to pay you $50,000. So this guy's losing $50,000. So we walk out with a situation where everybody is unhappy. But the Shulchan Aruch says you should try for pshara. Pshara is not a method of making peace. It's a method of being Yotze a little bit this way, a little bit that way. It's really, if you look at the Ksois, the pshat in a pshara is it's a din b'fnei atzmai. You can't even appeal a pshara. They want everyone. So you're allowed to, by the way, go into a beis din and say, I want din v'loy pshara. I want din v'loy pshara. I said, I don't want to go with any psharas. Beis din is mechuyev to do that. Mechuyev to go din v'loy pshara. But they're going to give you a hard time because they want to do pshara. But the point is, this is a pshara. The minhag is a pshara in Rishonim, which is like kazeh v'loy kazeh. And the truth of the matter is, even by the tefillin, if we would put on two pairs of tefillin, even though Shulchan Aruch says you should make a tzlai, I'm Yotze with this one, I'm Yotze with that one, but that became the minhag. Our minhag is karashi. I don't think that what you're saying is correct, that you'll come to Shemayim and did you put on tefillin? Are you a karkafta d'loy malach tefillin? You didn't even put on tefillin one time because Rabbeinu Tam is coming to yell at us. I don't think so. I think the minhag Yisrael is to wear tefillin shel Rashi. And Mamela, you see, what I'm trying to bring out here is a yisoid that the minhag Yisrael is based in Rishonim, but it could be a whole new thing, like a pshara and Choshen Mishpat. It could be a whole new halacha, and the whole new halacha has a din mifnei atzmai, which is the Ratzon Hashem. And that's the minhag. It makes no difference what they found in history, or what Moshe Rabbeinu did, or what your father did. This is the minhag Yisrael. This is what I'm doing. That's the chiddush that I'd like everyone to absorb.
Just an aside, there's a preponderance of archaeological evidence. You mentioned the Gael Yadin. There's a preponderance of archaeological evidence. Find a mashkof. Okay. The mezuzah is in the mashkof. It's chiseled in vertically. They found it. You know where they found? I mean, I looked into it in Beit Sharim. You know, that's like where Rebbe's White House was. So all the mezuzahs are all of them. They're all, and even there's like a big room. You know, somebody said here, the Beit Shemesh cemetery, somebody said there's certain kfarim built inside. You ever notice that? You ever see that? Some people say, I'll build kfarim inside. The whole Beit Sharim is inside, mausoleum type of this is also no Klal Yisrael, but that's one of the things that
There's a whole sefer written about how all this, but it doesn't make any difference. Our minhag is to make a crooked.
In the rooms, they turn down the
The cutout for the mezuzahs.
I mean,
First of all, the whole building, and then every group of
there's
kivarim,
rooms, yeah.
every room has a mezuzah on it.
And so they held up and down they held like Rashi for the mezuzahs. Do you think they held the Rebbeinu?
What do you mean? Why?
They held the Rashi for the mezuzahs, but still, we did Rebbeinu Tam.
Yeah,
Meaning, like, they probably possibly like the Rashi for both, no?
maybe. My point in halacha is it doesn't make that much of a difference.
Why is it different first?
If
It starts with like the second that found in the case. They were